Hello and welcome to another exciting episode of Artificial Aviation. In today's episode, we're doing something new. I'm really excited to be looking at VFR navigation today, so I'm going to be learning about visual flight rules and how to use the outside world to navigate. As I understand it, this is the most basic level of navigation you need to do when you're learning to fly. Also, I'm going to try and shake up these tutorials a little bit and do something a bit interesting. Up to now, I've been trying for the high score in my videos, so you'll have seen me, I do it, then I do it again, and I do it again, and I do it again, and I'll be honest with you, I'm not sure that's making great entertaining content for you guys. So what I'm planning on doing is something a little bit different. What I've got is I treated myself to the FSAcademy IFR and VFR training programs. So I've got all of these training things to do as well. Now, I'm not going to show you all of these, and I'm not going to show you the ones I do show you in full. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to compare the two side by side, and I'm going to see how they stack up against each other. This is me seeing how they stack up as a beginner. How much do I get out of these as someone who's learning to do this, who's new to this? Okay, enough talking, let's get started. I'm going to do departure, get airborne and use runway for reference. So get airborne, I'm getting better at that now. And then we're going to do dead reckoning, navigate using heading and time estimates. We're going to use landmark navigation. We're going to use arrival, which is following a VFR procedure to land, and our first solo navigation. And then we're going to see how that stacks up against the other tutorial. Let's take a look. Okay, so let's take a look at what we've got to do here. So a good departure is the key to a good navigation. After the takeoff, take a safe altitude of 6,500 feet, 500 feet above the circuit height, and fly over the runway at 41 degrees heading to start your navigation from a known location. You're now ready to navigate. Okay, so as we see, we're going to take off from Sedona, same way we've done before. We're going to turn on the crosswind, and then when we turn downwind, instead of turning downwind, we're going to move back across to be over the runway above circuit height at 6,500 feet. And that begins our known start point. Okay, cool, I think we can do this. Training duration 5 minutes. Let's give it a go. Don't worry, YouTube. I'm not going to make you watch for 5 minutes. You'll get the good bits. Okay, we are ready to fly.
Today we're going to leave our familiar airport of Sedona and venture south to reach Flagstaff Airport.
Yes, we are.
To guide us, we will rely on the navlog. It references the different legs necessary to reach our final destination.
Okay, so let's have this here.
Our first goal is to fly over the runway center at 6,500 feet with a heading of 41 degrees. By doing so, we will be perfectly set up to engage with the first leg of the navlog. After takeoff, we will continue crosswind as if we were following the standard traffic pattern. However, we won't turn downwind. Instead, we will continue climbing to 6,500 feet before turning on course toward the runway center.
Just get my seat set up here.
Okay.
Okay, so I'm in a good seating position. Controls are free and clear. I can take off whenever I'm ready. Do you know what? It's been a week since I've done this, so I might actually get some stuff wrong. Okay, so where are we? We've got... let's just check what I've got here in terms of the thing. So, oh, we're moving. I didn't want that. Okay, let's toe brake. Let's put the parking brake is on. So throttle's where it needs to be. Mixture's fully in for now. We don't have any flaps. I probably want to take off with a degree of flaps, so I'm going to put a degree of flaps in. Happy with that. Lights. Let's make sure we've got taxi lights are on. We don't need those for takeoff, so they're off. Landing lights are on. Beacons on. Strobes are on. Nav lights are on. We'll leave them on, that doesn't matter. Pitot heat is off for now, that's fine. Trims are neutral. Trims are to take off. Okay, good, we're good. The basics are there. So I'm gonna release the parking brake. I am going to release the parking brake. Okay. Right, let's push the throttle cable in. Throttle lever in. So heat parking brake is now off. Let's use the rudder to control straight center line. Okay, full in. Okay, here we go. Watching that airspeed indicator. Airspeed is alive. That's good news. Airspeed is alive. 60 knots, 65. And rotate. Oh, look at that. We are well away. That's good. We got a...
And we have liftoff.
Yes,
Good.
we do.
Your target altitude is 6,500 feet.
Perfect.
That's 500 feet above the traffic pattern, as we don't want to interfere with incoming aircraft.
70 knots. Now we want a 75 knot climb speed. So as we move up past 300 feet, I'm going to reduce the flaps. Flaps are coming out, so we'll get some more airspeed. Then we can pitch the nose up, trade the airspeed for altitude. Make a slight course adjustment. 75 knots. Very good rate of climb on this, which I'm happy with. Yeah, I'm definitely happy with that rate of climb. That's good. Good. Maintain 75 knots. We're looking for 5,700 feet. We're just a little bit in danger of losing that 75 knots. So I'm going to bring the nose back down a little bit. Yes, that's better. That's good. 56. Come on, baby. Start to turn into the upwind leg.
As you climb, turn left so you stay in the vicinity of the airport.
7, there we are, 57. Turn left to remain in the traffic pattern. It's a bit of a steep angle, but we're there. Reach the end of the crosswind leg at an altitude of 6,500 feet. But that is not happening. We're going to maintain this speed. What I'm going to do is I'm going to thin... Oh, not that far. I'm going to thin the mixture out to get a better ratio because we're at altitude now. Oh, that speed is far too low. Turn left for the departure position. Still going for 6,500. That's it, 75 knots. Beautiful. Got a nice gentle turn. Should be using the rudder here for my slip. Gently. Easy does it. There we go, just a tiny little bit of rudder. Still climbing. That's a nice rate of climb that we've got there. What I'm going to do is 64. Just coming up on 65 now at 75 knots. And we're ready to level out.
You took a bit too long to reach the target altitude. You want to climb faster to reach a safe altitude.
Unhappiness, all
To
right.
ensure accurate navigation, you want an accurate starting point. And what's more accurate than the runway you just departed from? Go ahead and position your plane above the airport.
Above the runway center, we're just about to cross that now. Take a 41 degree heading. So 41 degrees is 4.1. So we're going to turn now to 41 degrees.
Nice.
There we go. Okay, level out. That's fine.
That's it for navigation departure. Well done.
You know, she busted my chops and then I got 9,369. Come on. Yeah, so I could have got up to that altitude a bit quicker, and obviously there's a safety issue there. So, if I don't get up there quick enough, I could end up colliding with traffic coming underneath. But that's something to work on. That's fine. Cool. We've learned a thing. Next one is dead reckoning. So we'll cover off dead reckoning for this one. Navigate using heading and time estimates. So dead reckoning is a method of navigating widely used in VFR flights. This training session is all about the basics of dead reckoning navigation. We're starting from a location known at a safe altitude of 6,500 feet above the airport. Take the heading 41 degrees towards your next waypoint, Munns Park Golf Course, and start the clock. Maintain the heading and you should find Munns Park Golf Course after 5 minutes of flight. You basically just need to repeat the operation from waypoint to waypoint to follow a planned route and reach any destination. Okay, I think I can do that. Let's do it. Okay, here we go.
We're currently at 6,500 feet. About 30 seconds flight time to Sedona Airport. As we make our way toward the runway center, let's talk more about navigation. When you need to set and maintain a heading, you'll want to rely on your heading indicator. Compasses are prone to errors, especially during turns or while accelerating or decelerating. Okay, we're in position over the runway center. Next step is to validate the time. That's a fancy way of saying start your stopwatch.
Okay, start the stopwatch. Let's do it. Start.
On the nav log, you can see our next waypoint, Munns Park, is at a 41-degree heading about 5 minutes away. That means we need to be on a 41-degree heading. Check your heading indicator and make your turn. Good. Maintain a 41-degree heading.
Okay, we are on a 41-degree heading, so that's fine.
As you approach Munns Park, the terrain level rises. To maintain a safe altitude, we'd better climb to 8,000 feet. Make sure you keep the same heading.
So I'm going to put some power in to
Maintain
initiate
full
the climb.
power during your climb.
So I'm at full power now. Trim out the mix a little to get the most out of the engine at this altitude. We want to start the climb. So we're in a small climb. I'm going to use the trim wheel for this to just trim his nose up a little bit. We're going to sacrifice a little bit of airspeed to gain some altitude. So see our VSI, we're now climbing. Coming back down a little bit. So there we go, I like that. That's a nice gentle rate of climb. Got 80 knots. A little bit off course here, so let's get back onto 41.
Navigation is basically flying a given heading for a given amount of time. Sometimes you deviate. But if you track the time flown from your last known position, you'll always have at least a range for your current position.
Yeah. So we're at 7,000 now. Climbing again. We want to climb a bit more. I'm going to climb manually, I think. So actually, I am going to trim in the climb a little bit. There we go. Coming up past 7,400 feet now. Oh, ladies and gentlemen, I'm really excited to be doing this. This is like, this is going to sound really silly. This feels like real flying. This is like the first time I'm actually going somewhere other than the airport. This is awesome. This is why I'm doing this. Just check out the view. It's brilliant. There is, in my opinion, there is no better way to do this than VR. Like, I think just the immersion is fantastic. I mean, you can tell you're in a video game, but you do feel more like you're actually there. I guess for learning, it might be easier, you know, if you were using screens, because you could have like books open and like taking notes and stuff. But for just enjoying the experience, this is fantastic. Right, we're at 8,000 now, so I'm going to trim out for level flight. Pop back the throttle a little bit.
Do you see the green patch with the lake on its right? This is
That's our
Munns
golf
Park
course.
Golf Club. We're almost there. Let's proceed over it and see if the stopwatch matches the navlog estimation. We all know speed can increase or decrease depending on the wind. That's why at your next waypoint, you'll want to compare your estimated time en route with the actual time flown. Validate your estimate and your progress. Okay, now get back to cruise attitude. Let the speed increase, then set cruise power at 2,300 RPM.
We're at 2,300 RPM now. That's close enough. Look, that's spot on 8,000. VSI is a little bit teeny tiny creeping up, but I think that's as close as we can be. Well, I think this is going to be quite close as we cross this line. So here's the golf course that we're about to come across. Having the Cessna for this is quite good because you can see straight to the floor because the wings are above us.
That was excellent. Navigation to Munns Park is in the books.
Done. Sorted. I feel like it was a bit stingy on the score. Let's have a look at the breakdown, see how we did. Navigate to Munns Park Golf Course, 6,001. I'd like to see, I'll be honest with you, it would be really good to see more of like, you know, where did that score come from? Like, what is it that I didn't do? Like, how can I improve? See, this is what we call noisy feedback, because it doesn't tell me what I can do better. It just simply tells me what my score is. Maintain requested altitudes. Okay, so this is pretty straightforward. Did I keep to my altitudes? And I scored 1,600 out of 2,000. So that, I mean, that's fair. I think that's absolutely fair, because that's something I'm definitely working on. Manage power accurately. 1,000. I got that spot on, so that was good. That was nice. Right, training menu. Let's go. Oh, wrong one. Let's cut to this. So, landmark navigation. So the next thing we're going to be learning is to navigate using key landmarks. So, and I can see why with VFR, so I just want to say at this juncture, I can see why with VFR that you would need to do this during the day with the weather conditions being to a certain standard, because obviously if it was foggy or it was cloudy and you couldn't see the ground, you couldn't do a lot of this, because you could do the dead reckoning, but it would still be dangerous, because it's like you can't confirm when you get to your location. Following and aiming at land features is the most basic method of navigation. It is widely used in VFR navigation. Starting above Munns Park Golf Course, find the highway and follow it up to Flagstaff Airport 6 minutes away. So we're going to find the golf course and we're going to follow the highway that we saw before. I'm going to sneak it all the way around to Flagstaff. Okay, cool. I think we can do that. Let's go. There we are. There's the highway.
On your left?
I need to follow that highway.
That highway leads all the way to Flagstaff. Let's follow it. And we should reach Flagstaff Airport in 6 to 7 minutes.
Okay, so we'll start our stopwatch, because we know that 6 to 7 minutes we should be at Flagstaff. Stopwatch is going. Okay. So this is a bit tricky, because I've got to keep sight
to make sure we don't miss it,
of that.
Reset your stopwatch here and start it again.
Right, 8,000 feet. We're a little bit below 8,000, so we're going to want to come back up to 8,000.
Start your stopwatch.
Already done it? Oh, it wants me to do it again. Okay, there we go. Right, so we got sight of the highway. That landscape is beautiful. Look at that. Right, and now what we're going to do is let's get that altitude back. 8,000, come on. Right, we've got 8,000. Why is this? This is struggling. I got full throttle.
Flagstaff Airport's altitude is around 7,000 feet. Unlike in Sedona, the traffic pattern altitude there is standard. This means its altitude is 1,000 feet above the airport, which works out to 8,000 feet. We need to fly over the airport before entering the traffic pattern. Since we don't want to interfere with other aircraft already in the traffic pattern, let's fly at least 500 feet above pattern altitude. So let's climb to 8,500 feet on the way. Keep it at full power while you're climbing.
Okay, so this might be tricky, because I'm going to pitch up, which is going to reduce... Oh, sorry, I got tons of airspeed, though. That's fine. So that's the thing I wasn't noticing. I wasn't checking my airspeed. I had enough airspeed that I can drop down to about 80 or even 75 for that climb. Let's do 75 for the climb, because that's what I do on takeoff. 75 knots. Let's see if we can hold it there. Now, a little bit lower that. That's fine, but we're climbing 8,400.
Perfect. Maintain 8,500 feet until we reach the airport.
Well, I'm going to get to the full 85. I'm not going to stop at 84. Look at that. Look, see all the forest. This is a beautiful part of the world.
Set RPM at 2,300.
Right, so if I level out now, and we're following this highway all the way up, set 2,300 RPM on the revs. Keep that highway in sight. Let's not lose concentration on that. Lots to do here. Right, so we've got some airspeed, but we're losing altitude, so are we going to do about that? We're going to trim the nose into an upward position. There we go. Right. Now, I'm not going to try and fly too close because I don't want to risk losing it if it deviates. But I don't want to risk losing sight of it. So I've got it there. I can see it. So this is the time to just manage my aircraft. I know the flagstaff is in a direction of 344, so 344. So I'm more or less heading in the right direction. But remember, I'm not following the heading this time. I'm following the highway because I know the highway will lead me to the airport, and I know I should get there in about 6 or 7 minutes. So I'm about just over halfway into the flight. So that's good. And what I'm trying to do, and I don't know if this is the right thing to do, so if you're a real pilot, feel free to drop in the comments, or you're more experienced than I am at simming, which wouldn't be difficult. Drop in the comments and let me know. I'm looking around. I'm just trying to avoid other aircraft. I'm trying to make sure there's nothing else in my sort of danger area that's going to come and I'm accidentally going to collide with. It's also a cheeky excuse to take in scenery, because golly gosh, if it isn't lovely. Okay, the plane seems to have settled down a little bit. We're heading at 85 knots. We're just about holding our altitude precise at 8,500 feet. The engine is stable on that RPM setting, so we're at just over 2,300 RPM. I'm happy with that. Oil temps are good, oil pressures are good, fuel is good. Suction gauge is good. We're in the green, so it's always good to have a little check.
Flagstaff Airport,
right, here's Flagstaff.
on the right side of the highway. Excellent landmark navigation.
We found it. Ta-da! 5 minutes 24 in. Early. That's a bit of a stingy score, isn't it? Oh. Right, let's have a look. This was very close reaching the airport, so there's obviously not much I did wrong there, which is good. Maintain requested altitude, so staying at the... I didn't do very well at that. I think it wants me to get to the altitude quicker, and I did remember I dropped the altitude at the beginning, so that's probably where I lost out on that, but it's good that it tells me that. That's good to know. And manage power accurately. Look at that. Look, delicious. Okay, so cool. On to the next one. So arrival, following VFR procedures. Now this is interesting because I'm used to obviously being in the pattern when I land. Interesting to see how they're going to manage me in to land on this one, what that looks like. So I've got to come in over the runway at 8,500 feet, so I'm coming above it, so I'm not risking hitting anything below me. And then I'm going to descend to the circuit at 80 knots, and then that's going to bring me in. So it says I'm joining left downwind, did it say? Left downwind of the runway 21. So downwind is where I'm actually going to then cut in. So downwind, if you think about where the end of this runway is, the pattern would actually continue off down. And so we're kind of like halfway, maybe just a bit less than halfway on the downwind as we come into it. So we're going to have to keep a sharp eye right when we do that. Make sure there's nothing else coming. Obviously in this tutorial there won't be, but we'll check anyway. Cool. All right then. And then we know how to fly the rest of the pattern, so that's fine.
Flagstaff Airport is right in front of us, and we're currently at 8,500 feet. That's 500 feet above the standard traffic pattern.
Yes,
it's a good altitude to avoid interfering with aircraft already in the pattern. Proceed above the terrain, making sure you maintain our current altitude.
Fly over runway center. So right now we've got to aim for the center of that runway and pass over the top of it. So let's do that. This is exciting. Oh, I just would love to be doing this in real life. That would be so cool. I wonder how many other people in the world right now are doing this in the simulator thinking, I'd love to be able to do this in real life. Got the bug. Right, here we are. So we're maintaining that altitude nicely, actually. The aircraft settled quite nicely. It feels balanced, like it's sticking to that altitude with me doing very little. I'm just controlling course at the moment, using my yoke here. If anyone's wondering, I have a Turtle Beach yoke that I'm using. It's not the most expensive one, but it's a good yoke. I like it. I say that's my first and only yoke, so I wouldn't know any different.
We're going to land on runway 21, coming from the right to the left. We'll be following a left-hand
Right,
traffic
so
pattern as we did in
21.
Sedona. Ready? Reduce speed to 80 knots and start a turn to the left toward a
Right.
120-degree heading.
Right. Set speed to 80 knots. There's our 80 knots. So I'm going to control that with pitch, and I'm turning left towards a 120-degree heading. So I'm looking for 12 on that dial. That's quite an aggressive turn there. Trying to manage the slip's not easy. It's quite stable, to be fair, so let's just leave it alone. Oh, 80 knots, we lost the speed. Push the nose down for 80. There we go, maintain 8,500 feet, so a bit more power for that then, because we need the altitude back. 120-degree heading, we're so nearly there. Okay, right, this is runway 3. So close to 1-2, come on baby. Come on baby.
As we pass over the runway again, start descending to 8,000 feet, still maintaining 80 knots.
1-2.
You'll enter the pattern in the middle of the downwind leg for runway 21.
So we're going to start our descent. We want 80 knots. So we want the power right back. Okay, there's our 80 knots. We're going to need to turn now if we're going to make that. I've got one hand on the throttle, one hand on the yoke. Oh, I just take too long to adjust the altitude. I want more speed, so I'm going to pitch the nose down, keep that 80 knots. Now we're descending nicely. Okay, that's
We've
beautiful.
got clearance to enter the downwind leg and land. Keep your attitude, then follow the standard pattern.
So now I know
Extend
that runway
10
3.
degrees
So
of flaps.
Right, we want 10 degrees of flaps.
Complete the traffic pattern until landing, as you learned previously.
To maintain that 8,000 now, so I'm gonna. Now that is a runway 3 and a 3 degrees. However, they've got the end of the downwind out that, so I'm actually going to aim a little bit out because I'm a little bit close to the runway, so I want to extend that out slightly. Maintain 80 knots. Crikey, I'm nowhere near 80 knots. Let's have all the power. Coming back in. We're at 80 knots, so what I can do now. Right, so just checking everything. What's our light situation? Taxi lights are off, landing lights are on. Okay, brakes. Undercarriage is fixed. We're coming up on this. So I'm going to want to make the turn now. Turn left. Want speed to 65 knots. Turning left onto base 21. Okay, we didn't get a chance to do all the bumfish checks, but we got the main ones in. That's disappointing because that's something I've practiced a lot and it's part of my pattern procedure. So disappointed that I didn't get it on this part of the lesson. Okay, concentrate. We want to maintain the altitude. Reach the final turn. Maintain 65 knots. Okay, so we've blown past that, so we need a bit more power. Reach that final turn. Okay, so lights are in. Brakes work. We have the turn final. Oh, we are way too close and way. Okay, that's no good at all. We've been a little bit led astray, I feel, by the tutorial on that one. So I've pulled the power out. I'm going to get another degree of flaps because I want to slow us down even more. That will help us get the power out, the speed out. Then we've got quite a long runway here, so we've got plenty of time to do something. So I'm going to give myself a little bit more power to manage this. Maintain power, speed, 65 knots. Yeah, land on runway 21. I'm going to fix a point on my windscreen here. and I'm going to check my descent. Now, my vertical speed at the moment is a little bit too aggressive, which is okay for the moment, because I need to get some altitude off. Remember, the circuit altitude is 7,000, so I'm coming down. I'm 200 feet now, 150 feet, 100 feet, passing. So now that I've done that, I'm going to want to start to level out and control that descent. There we are. Right, power's back. We're gliding in. 210, 5. There we go, and we're down. Apply the brakes. A little offline, so that's a bit ugly. Well, I thought that was all right. Ladies and gentlemen, I thought that went quite well. I thought that was a fair score. I did some things wrong, so I feel like the tutorial on that one, it led me astray. Like it kind of pulled me in closer, tighter for that final than ideally I'd have liked. So I kind of let it lead me, which was a bit naughty. I should have kind of remembered looking at my 45 degrees to the runway and things like that. But no, I was happy with that. Sorry, folks, I forgot to look at the score breakdown. But the next one, first solo navigation. So this is the build-up that we've got to the first solo. We're going to compare this to... Oh, here's the score breakdown. I found it. Yay! So, complete base leg. Hold heading and keep your speed at around 65 knots. So yeah, I knew the speed management was a little bit iffy. Integrate traffic pattern. Again, it was about the speed and maintaining requested altitudes. Again, I'll accept that. I'm flying over runway center. Yeah, that's fair enough. I love that. I'll accept that. So we've got departure, dead reckoning, navigation, landmark, and arrival. And I've accidentally got an A on every one of these. Whoops. So we're going to do the first solo navigation, and then we're going to look at the FSAcademy tutorial by comparison. So let's take a look. Okay, so this is it, folks. First solo navigation. It's happening. It's the return trip from your previous lessons. You'll be departing Flagstaff Pulliam Airport, handling every navigation step on your way to Sedona. After the takeoff, take a safe altitude of 8,500 feet, 500 feet above the circuit height, and fly over the runway to start your navigation from a known location. Choose whatever method of navigation you're confident with to reach Munns Park Golf Course, Dead Reckoning, Landmark Navigation, or both. Once you've reached your destination, fly over Sedona Airport at 6,500 feet to identify the active runway. Then descend to 6,000 feet to integrate left downwind of the runway to 1. Follow the traffic pattern and keep the speed at 65 knots during the final approach. Flare, land, and brake close to the runway centerline. Okay, so we know what we've got to do. Okay, that's our instructions. The map here shows us where we're going. Okay, so first things first, we've got to find our way. We've got to get to and keep that 8,500 feet, and we've got to get our way to Munns. Once we've found Munns, which I'll probably follow the highway for again, we've got to bank right towards Sedona, set our heading for Sedona, and I think we'll just do the reverse of what we did coming up. So I'll do Dead Reckoning to Sedona, and I'll do Visual Landmark Recognition to Munns. I think that's probably the best. Cool, let's give it a go.
Are you ready for this? You are going solo
I'm ready
on
for
a
this.
full VFR flight. From takeoff to touchdown, it's all you. You'll be departing Flagstaff Pulliam Airport, handling every navigational step on your way to Sedona. It's the return trip from your previous lessons. You'll be flying over the same landmarks. You remember them? The highway, Munns Park Golf Club. Choose whatever you're confident with. Dead Reckoning, Landmark Navigation, or both. This is what you've trained for. Just remember everything you've learned. And most of all, enjoy the ride.
Okay. Enjoy the ride. You don't need to tell me twice. Sorry, I was just working out whether the carb heat should be on or off. I think it's off for takeoff and then on once we get up in the air. So I'm going to put it off for the moment. But it's going to go straight on as soon as we're up, I think, because Yeah, we don't want a carburetor icing up. That would be bad. Right, it's easy to get overwhelmed here. Also, I realised my registration set to golf, not November, which is, totes inaccurate. We've got landing lights are on, taxi lights are off, strobes, beacons, navs are on, so that's fine. Pitot heat should go on, cabin lighting off. Yeah, we don't need that. Right, okay, good. Oil temps and pressures are okay for the moment. First degree of flaps in. Let's get those flaps down. Carb mixture full rich for takeoff, and then we're going to ease it out when we get up in the air. That's fine. I think we're ready for takeoff. Right, okay. So, is parking brake on or off? I think it's off, right? We'll find out when we put the throttle in. Okay, let's put the throttle in. Okay, it was off. Right, now it's on. Okay. We have a go. So I'm going to use the rudder pedals to control my center line. We're currently at 7,000 feet as our takeoff altitude. Heading indicator looks correct. Airspeed is alive. What was the bunny hop? What? 300 feet. Okay, airspeed is alive. Concentrate. We're offline. We want to get to 65 knots and we're up. 65 and rotate. Oh, that's sweet. We're up. Okay, we want to get to 75 knots and get a set rate of climbing. $70. Right, I'm going to pull out the mixture a little bit so that we get a bit of extra oomph out the engine. Keeping the runway heading. 75 knots. Come on, where's my 75 knots? Right, I'm going to take the flaps out so I can more easily get 75. Now I've got 75. I'm going to nose up. That was a bit awful. I actually don't think you need the flaps to take off in this. I think this would take off without them. I just got used to flying the Piper. This thing just does not want to climb. I must be doing something wrong. What am I doing wrong? Come on, plane. I've got a long way to climb here. That's the sweet spot for the mixture. Right there. That's as much as I'm going to get out of it. What I'm going to do is we're 500 feet up, so I should have been watching for 300 feet to take the flaps out, and that's why I went so prolonged. Also, presumably I'm taking off into the wind for the help with the lift, so that's probably also why I'm struggling with airspeed. Make this turn. Can't see the runway, so I'm going to use my heading indicator to get my 90 degrees to the runway. There we go. We've got our 75 knots and we're still climbing. That's good. Okay. I want to turn again in a minute because... Okay, I'm going to turn now. So I move out of the vicinity of the runway. About to approach 8,000. Okay, so we know we're going to fly parallel to runway 21, so 21 degrees is the heading I need to take. There's my runway. I can also visually do it now because I can see the runway. Okay, it's turning, it's turning, it's turning. I feel like I'm picking up the basics quite quickly, but I feel like that it's going to take me longer to master all of the little bits. We're at 75 knots. We're just on the threshold for 75 here. Gonna pitch up slightly. Just try and get that extra little bit of altitude because we're flying the downwind. Actually, we need to fly across the runway, don't we? Climb, you bucket, climb. Right. 164 is where Munns Park Golf Course is, and we need to cross the runway so that we start from that known point. Okay, we're going to get to it now, so we just go to 75 knots. I'm going to look at the instructions again when it's finished, because I forgot the first part. I'm pretty sure we have to... Right, we've reached 8,500, so what we need to do now, folks, is we need to trim this thing out at 8,500, and we need to get some airspeed going. When we cross this runway, we're going to want to get on a heading of 164. No, we do and we don't. We actually want to follow the freeway, which is then going to be on our right. Freeway, highway, I don't know what it's called. Set 2300 RPM. There we go, she's happy with that. Right, we're crossing the runway now. Let's start the stopwatch. Okay, maintain 8,500 feet. We're a little high at the moment. That is the road that we need to keep on our right, and we need to be able to see out the window, so I need to get a little bit more distance to it. We also know that it's a heading of 164 from that known location, so it's in that direction. So let's... Well, now I can see our highway there. Right, I'm going to use our trim wheel. Now I'm going to focus on trying to get our altitude and speed locked. So right now we are decreasing altitude, so I need to pitch the nose down slightly. I know that seems a bit counterintuitive, but that's going to increase our airspeed. Okay, no, let's pitch it up slightly. Okay, let's go with the instinct, let's level off. Leveling off. Got that distance from the horizon to the front of the aircraft there. Okay, that looks good. Okay, vertical speed indicator would indicate that I'm not falling. My altitude indicator's right where I want it. I'm going to do the rest of everything with speed. I'm perfectly happy with that little bit of accidental climb there, because it gives me the extra little bit of altitude I need to make back. That's going to fluctuate. There's our freeway there. I'm still watching it. Now, you should be able to see it there, snaking through the trees, and then it's going to make a bank left there. We're 1 minute 53 in, so we're a third of the way into the journey. I guess this is the bit where you sit back and enjoy, right? I mean, the sunshine does make it a little bit tricky to enjoy what's going on over there, but I've got some visibility this way. You can see some hills and trees. So, okay, everything's set, I think. Right, this would be a good moment, actually, rather than just wasting time. I once heard it said that a good pilot always plans ahead. So, while we have this time on our hands, I'm going to move the plane over a little bit and start moving towards the golf course, because I've got sight of the highway if I go a little bit left, because I need to go over the golf course so that my dead reckoning to the airport is precise. So, right. What I'm going to do now, so I'm going to take this opportunity where I've kind of leveled out and I've got some time to check over the aircraft. So, fuel quantity is good, oil temperature is good, oil pressure is good, suction is in the green, airspeed is stable, altitude is stable, mixture and throttle are good, the RPMs are in a safe range, so everything looks good right now. I should have turned off my landing lights, but I didn't, so I'm going to turn those off now. Naughty, naughty. One day I'm going to remember to do that. Dun, 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 dun. I know there's a body of water near it, so that's a good thing. That's kind of a good landmark to look for. Right. I also see where this highway is going there, and I know I can see it in my view. If I use the mouse cursor, I can see it snaking round here. So I'm going to make a preemptive turn to try to bring myself over Muns, because I'm going to need to make a turn over Muns, and that's when I'm going to need to stop and start my stopwatch, so my dead reckoning is more or less right. Yeah, this is doable, folks. This is... I must be honest, I thought I'd be making a much bigger mess of this at this point, so this is a bit where I find out I spoke too soon. Okay, I can still see the highway, that's good. You can see it running along here, and there's my water, and I think this dark green patch here is my golf course. So I want to make sure I go over the golf course so there's no confusion. 550. So So we're a little bit over the time for the golf course, but then I did start the stopwatch a little bit promptly, so... And I remember where the golf course is in relation to all these roads and things. So there's that little body of water there, still at the right altitude, still at a decent speed. That's fine. There it is. I see, that annoys me they put that in. I didn't need that, I was finding it. I wouldn't have gone that aggressively towards it because I'd still be looking at this point because of my eyesight, which, if you're like me and you're legally blind, I'm only joking, I'm not legally blind, but I have questionable eyesight. Having and being a glasses wearer, having prescription lenses for your Oculus or whatever other VR headsets are available, then I mean it is a game changer, folks. I can actually see things and it's amazing. Right, so I'm looking now at the golf course. I'm seeing, well, actually it looks like a trailer park to be fair, but I remember that this was where it was, and I'm seeing, tilt over slightly, yeah, I can see the sand traps there, the bunkers. Right, okay, good. I'm directly over the golf course now, so I need to take a heading of 222. Right, so I'm going to turn to 222. Now I'm over the golf course. Okay, we're going to lose a little bit of altitude if we're not careful, so I'm just going to pitch up slightly. Keep your nose up. 21, 22, so it's just after the 21 degrees. And we're going to be travelling that time for about 6:20. 6:21 was the original. 4:47 this one. So we're going to restart the stopwatch. 21, 22. Straighten that up. Right. 4 minutes, and we want to drop our altitude to 6,000 feet. Well, actually, it's telling us to maintain 8,500, so I'm going to do that. So I actually think, folks, that sort of shape in the distance there, I think that's Sedona. I do indeed. Does this thing have an interior light? I think it does, doesn't it? It feels a bit dingy in here. Should we see what that looks like? Oh, well, that's pretty. I think we'll have that on, folks. That makes it look a lot less dingy in here. Oh. Okay, stop focusing on the ambience and keep this thing moving in the same direction. So, just doing a quick check, we've still got 8,500 feet, which is telling us to maintain. We are looking to reach Sedona Airport. We know it's 4:47 with 118 in. I have good fuel, green oil temps, green oil pressures. It's between 10 and 5 to 7. I'm guessing that's in the evening. It's still quite light for that time of evening, to be honest. Maybe it's in the morning. 80 knots and a green suction gauge, so everything's going good here so far. Now I thought the instructions told me to reduce my altitude to 6,000 feet, yet the objective, so everybody's looking, everybody can see, the objectives say maintain 8,500 feet. I can see the runway, I'm aiming for the runway. I'm going to turn a little bit to put it directly underneath us. However, we feel really way too high above that runway right now. So I'm going to see how this pans out, because I think we could have found ourselves yet another bug. Prepare to eat my words in a minute when it's like, either that or it's going to be like, dive. Descend 6,500 feet. Right, speed is 80. It wants me to maintain this speed and do a controlled descent. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to trim the nose down like this to begin a downward descent, and I'm going to take the power out to keep myself at 80 knots. I'm going to get the power all the way out. Power is all the way out, and I'm still going, so I need to pitch up a little bit because this is a dangerous dive. We're going down far too fast. That's a much more sensible descent. Still not quite at 80 knots. Come on, baby. Back up again slightly. He's getting in the range. Well, in fairness, now that 80 knots requirement's gone, it's just get down to 6,500 feet as quick as you can. So, I mean, that's still quite fast. I'm not quite happy with how quickly it's having us come down here. I mean, we're still in a safe speed range. Okay, internet, tell me what you think. Is it dangerous if we're still within the green speed range, right? So, because I'm still only doing 85 knots. I need to trim this down again now because we're not descending quick enough. It's going to bust my chops out for not coming down quick enough. I think anything beneath 100 knots and we're fine. 7, here we go, 6,500, 6,500. There we go, right, we've got to level that out now. Leveling out. Doing that by the trim wheel at the moment. Right, we need to power in. Right, flying over the centre. Turn left towards a 120-degree heading and descend 6,000 feet. Right. Trim's nearly at takeoff. Left to 120. It's not panic. It's not panic. Right, we're turning left. And we're descending still. That's good descent. Sensible speed. Probably stand to come down a bit quicker. Enter downwind for 2-1. So we're going to turn again. We're on the downwind. We're looking right. Traffic looks clear. We're entering at 6,000. Right, I'm not this time going to let it get me to do something dangerous. So I'm going to make that gentle join here now. I'm going to start to level out because we want to come. We're far too close, and I want to come out a little bit further. Right, maintain 6,000. We're too low at the moment. We're too high, sorry, we're too high, that's my problem here. Okay, we've made a hash of this, but we're gonna get it. Okay, 80 knots, coming up on 6,000 feet, 80 knots, come on baby, 6,000. There we go, right, let's level out. Right, now I'm looking for 45 degrees in my rear view before I turn for that end of base leg. Yeah, I'm much happier with that this time. So, powers in, maintain 65 knots. So now we want to get a degree of flaps in, put some power in, so we don't do anything silly. We want to fix the trim in, so the trim's back to neutral. 5 knots is in. Coming up on the base leg now, so we want to actually fly our base. 65 going too fast now. Turn left onto the base for final. We're going to do atrociously on power management here. I'm going to put mixture back to full rich for landing as part of our landing procedures. We didn't do our bumfish checks again, so I'm going to get landing lights on now as quick as I can. I've got flaps in. Undercarriage is fixed. Brakes are set, checked. Land aircraft, maintain 65 knots. We're a little fast, so I'm going to have another degree of flaps to take the speed out. I'm going to pull the power a bit more. I don't want to risk a stall here, so I'm going to... 65 knots, we're coming in. I've got fixed on a point in the windscreen. I'm going to keep that there. I've got one hand on the yoke, one hand on the power. Maintaining 65 knots. We've just got to land this baby. This hasn't been ideal, but a little bit offline. So I'm going to use the rudder to bring us in a little bit. Power's completely off. I'm going to have enough airspeed coming in. I'm going to start to level out. Should be in a position where I can just hold it, and we're down. Brakes applied, keep the centre line. Parking brake on. That's it, folks. We're in.
Wow, great job. Some people say the sky's the limit. I say it's just the beginning.
Do you know what? After the foibles I made, I will take that score. I'm happy with that, folks. I don't mind telling you. Fly over the runway centre and keep your altitude at 85. I got 1,000 for that. That was generous, but I'm happy with that. Navigate to Munns Park Golf Course, 1750 out of 2,000. Yeah, I think that's. I mean, that's a bit tight considering I found my own way there. I didn't lose my way, you know, and I got there within a reasonable margin of a time estimate. Takeoff on runway 3, climb to 8,500. Yeah, I kind of did botch the takeoff there. So I get this. This could have been done much better. So I'll take that. That's fair. And that's it. We have done the built-in VFR training. So the next thing for us to do, we're going to do next is we're going to compare now. We're going to go back to our main menu. We're going to come back to activities. And we're going to go custom content, and we are going to take a look at the FSAcademy VFR training, specifically lesson 4 local flight. So we've done circuits and we've kind of done the alternate of this one of the built-in tutorial. We've done approach, you know, we've done that. We've done basic VFR, which we've kind of done in those lessons as well. I've done this lesson before, and I can say this is handling. I'm going to go straight to this one and see how it stacks up against what we've just done. Okay, cool. Let's take a look. So, leave the airfield and travel across New Zealand countryside in your first taste of flight in uncontrolled airspace before performing an overhead join. Okay. Let's go. Okay, let's get those objectives.
You join us in the Robin as we're backtracking runway 32 at Thames on the New Zealand's North Island. Keep taxiing towards the end of the runway. We're going to conduct a full VFR flight completely in uncontrolled Class G airspace. To begin, we'll depart Thames via the circuit and start heading southeast.
Okay, so one minor complaint, and this probably isn't of the tutorial, this is of the airplane, that if I look at the window, if I go like this with my head sticks out the glass. I'm quite high up in this seat, and I don't know what I can do about it. I guess if I crouch down in my seat, now that puts me higher, so if I sit up, bolt upright, and then reposition, that works. Okay, folks. Okay, that's better. Okay, we got there. Now my head doesn't stick out the window. Yay! I'm going to go ahead and make an assumption. I hope it's a fair one. That backtrack is fancy pilot speak for taxi back down the runway to the end of it. So let's do that now. Let's backtrack. I have no idea what I'm doing with this airplane. Also, what's really weird is I've got a yoke, but it's got a stick, so interesting times. In an ideal world, I would have got my joystick out and done my joystick for this. Unfortunately, I'm too lazy because my yoke is bolted to my desk, and I really, really don't have the energy to unbolt it and do all of that work. So, tough noogies, I'm using a yoke, even though it's a stick, so we'll have to live with that, okay? Right, backtracking. So, throttle. I'll use my Cessna throttle because that will mirror what this one does. So, we push in the throttle a little bit. Okay. Okay, that's better. Alright. How fast am I going? I don't want airspeed alive while I'm trundling down the runway.
Now slow to a walking pace and make a 180 turn to line up.
Okay, 180 degree turn, I can do that. Walking pace. Okay, so if I put 1 foot brake down, that's in the direction that I want to turn. That has the effect of turning the aircraft a bit more urgently. So I guess if I get between these two white dots...
Align yourself in the centre of the grass runway and come to a stop. There's no ATC here at Thames, so we'll broadcast what we're doing on the local traffic frequency. Thames traffic, Foxtrot Sierra Alpha, taking off runway 32, Thames.
I can brake on.
Now set full power and take off from runway 32.
Full power and take off from runway 32. Okay, cool. We can do this. Before I do this, I just want a quick familiarization session. So we've got a heading indicator, VSI, altimeter. I know these indicators, that's fine. I've got an airspeed indicator. What we got? 100, 150, 200. So let's go faster than a little Cessna. I've got a suction gauge, that's in the green. Battery gauge is good. I've got a rev counter down the bottom there. And I've got some engine gauges, oils in the green. Oil temperature looks quite high, to be fair. Fuel pressure's good and fuel level is good, so normally I'd probably be highly concerned about that oil temperature. However, given the fact that this is a simulator and nothing bad can happen to me, we're gonna bypass that as well. What's the situation with landing lights? We've got landing lights on, landing lights on, taxi lights on. We can turn those off now. Okie dokie. Let's turn off the parking brake and get ready to go. Let's fly. Parking brake is off. Powers to the bulkhead. I'm trying to keep it straight on this bumpy grass runway. Come Steve Banter says rudders, that's better. Beautiful. Airspeed is alive. Got about 80 knots. I'm going to go for a rotate.
Raise the nose to the climb attitude.
Yeah, copy. Got that. Has this thing got flaps?
Hold the climb attitude and fly straight ahead initially. We'll join a left circuit after takeoff. Right rudder to keep the ball centered.
Oh, so straight away, this is talking to me about the slip indicator. So this actually cares about the slip indicator, where the Microsoft one doesn't. So that's interesting. And good. That airspeed in knots, because the bottom one is kilometers.
300 feet above airfield level, flaps up.
I was about to say, you don't need to remind me. I've needed reminding every single time today so far, which I'm disappointed about, if I'm honest. Right, flaps are up. Copy that.
We're passing 500 feet, so make a left turn to the crosswind leg, climbing to 1,000 feet circuit altitude.
Okay.
Thames traffic, Foxtrot Sierra Alpha downwind runway 32, leaving southbound Thames.
I like the radio call. That's very realistic.
We're on the downwind leg of the circuit. We're going to carry on straight ahead and begin our local flight and climb higher once we've left the circuit area. Now we've left the circuit to the south, climbed straight ahead to 2,500 feet on heading 140.
Okay, power's in. We want to go 2,500 on heading 140. Okay, so I'm turning slightly. Going to make sure we're locked in on 140.
Keeping the Waihu River on your left, we're aiming for Te Aroha, which is the town just at the base of the tallest part of the ridgeline up ahead.
Right. Okay, so I see it. Where what I'm going with what that means is where that land meets where that mountain meets the land there. So 500, right, crikey, that's a bit of a climb. However, we've got a lot of airspeed to sacrifice, so I'm going to pitch the nose up a lot more, to be honest. Let's get this airspeed up. Got plenty of power. It's normally 3,000 feet, I think I would trim out the mix, so I'm not doing that right now. I'm going to leave that in. Or is it 2,500? I need to look that up. Okay, some ground school stuff for me to do this week. So one thing I like about the FSAcademy training is it comes complete with a ground school manual. So there's lots of reading and stuff to do. So if you are an aviation nerd and you really want to sort of you go in for the realism, I guess, you know, that's quite good because it gives you a lot of information that you're not getting inside this tutorial. Engine indicators are looking good. I'm following that river. I'm aiming for that baseline there. A bit nervous about these clouds, if I'm honest. I know with VFR you have to maintain what are called minimums. That's a certain minimum distance away from the clouds. I can't remember what any of the values are at the moment, so I think my homework for this week is going to be reading up the ground manuals and refreshing my memory on what those minimum values are. Make sure I sort of know that, complying within VFR regulations.
Level off and maintain 2,500 feet. Accelerate to cruising speed of about 100 knots.
Pull the power back to a sensible
Set
speed.
power to hold 100 knots and make sure you're trimmed out.
Point the nose upwards.
We're now flying visually in uncontrolled airspace. At this altitude, we don't need to account for any cruising level restrictions, and we can simply remain clear of cloud. Set a heading of 150, pointing us between the dark marshland we see on the right and the high ground on the left.
Right, okay, copy that. Right. So we're at heading 150 vaguely. A bit concerned about that climb now, so I'm going to pull some power out. Manage my... Going to get to a cruise power setting. There. And then I'm going to trim so that we don't drop our altitude.
Once cruising VFR, make sure to keep a good lookout the whole time. We're in uncontrolled airspace below 3,000 feet, so anyone can be flying around in any direction and at any altitude, even without a radio. If we were to climb above 3,000 feet, we'd need to fly at a VFR cruising level. Heading east, we'd go for an odd altitude plus 500 feet, such as 3,500 feet. Traffic heading west would be at an even altitude plus 500, giving us some separation.
Ah, that's interesting. So
above 3,000 feet, we also need to have a minimum cloud separation of 1,500 meters laterally and 1,000 feet vertically.
oh, there you go. He's telling me my minimum.
This is instead of simply staying out of the cloud and remaining in sight of the ground, as we're doing here at 2,500 feet.
So that's quite informative. I'll be honest with you, I didn't take all of that on board because I'm busy trying to trim this thing out and stop it from flying off into heaven. So one thing I'm noticing a different between the built-in tutorials and this tutorial straight away is the extra information that you're getting. He's talking more about like the VFR rules, like staying away from the clouds, distances to maintain. The point is you get that extra information that I wasn't getting from the other tutorials. So this course does actually have a good session on flying in the mountains and the thermal effects and stuff like that, so that might be a good one to tackle, because I like flying around mountains. They're quite pretty, although in single engine aircraft at higher altitudes it can be a bit of a danger zone, as it were. Right, Tata Rojas over there, but it's still telling me to fly heading 150, so I'm going to keep flying 150 till the tutorial tells me to stop. But that's ideally where we want to make. So obviously using visual landmarks, I've crossed this sort of bit where the hill meets the ground, and then I've got this river here, and then I can just about make out that town at the bottom of that next piece of mountain. So that's something that we are, but it's still telling us heading 150, so we'll keep on this heading. The nose of this place.
See the highest peak on the left side? That's Taraha town just below it. Take us overhead to Taraha.
Over non-built-up areas, we need to stay 500 feet above the ground for VFR. For built-up areas like Taraha, we need to stay 1,000 feet off the ground. Okay, we're just flying over the town now again, making note of visual landmarks. I'll be honest with you, I'm really fighting with this trim and getting this bucket to hold its altitude. I had it really easy in the Cessna in the last one, but this is just fighting me all the way. It just doesn't want to seem to sensibly trim. Right, I'm doing that by hand now.
We've reached Taraha, so now carry on ahead for a short distance, keeping the ridgeline to your left.
Okay. Oh, sugar. Keep it... I didn't hear what he said.
As we get closer to the ridge line, become mindful of turbulence. If the wind is strong and is coming from the other side of a ridge, you can find severe downdrafts, so always give high ground some extra space when downwind of it.
Right.
If you look to your right at about 1 o'clock, see the long straight road? Turn to heading 160 and follow the road, keeping it on your
I
left.
see it's this one. Okay. I didn't need that lollipop thing because I've seen it. It was this road here, so I'm going to fly heading 160 towards the road.
Follow this straight road and it'll take us towards Matamata Airfield.
Okay.
The road is an example of a line feature.
So it's a
Line features such as roads and railways are great for following, but if crossing over them, be mindful that they don't give precise lateral guidance, unless there's a standout feature, such as a junction or a town. When following a line feature, keep it on your left side, as this makes it easier to see from your seat. Traffic following the line in the other direction should also be doing this, giving you some separation.
That's clever. I never really thought about it like that before. Because obviously it's to my right, it's harder to see. Keeping it to my left, it's easy to see from my seat. And if traffic coming the other way are doing it, they're doing the same. So they're on the other side of the road. That's really clever. I never really thought about that before. I am learning things, folks. So yeah, I'm definitely getting the impression already, doing this particular lesson, that there's more information in these FSAcademy. But I actually like both. I think I do like both. So I think, but then you get the other ones for free anyway. So if you're going to buy the FSAcademy, it's not like you're making a choice between them.
We're going to enter the circuit at Matamata. Although it's uncontrolled, we still use our radio to broadcast our position and intentions and listen for other traffic.
Okay.
To enter an uncontrolled circuit, we use the standard overhead join, which has us arrive overhead the airfield at circuit altitude plus 500 feet, looking down onto the airfield to observe the runways and look for any other aircraft. The live side of a circuit is where the circuit pattern is. The dead side is the other side of the runway, which is where we do any descending down to circuit altitude.
Copy that.
The road we're following kinks off to the left, but we're going to keep heading 160 as it takes us straight towards Matamata. Start descending to 1,700 feet.
Right. They want us down to 1,700 feet. So as before, we're going to pull the power right out. So we just got a tiny little bit of power in. The aircraft's going to pitch itself downwards by the looks of things. But we're going to watch our airspeed because I don't want our airspeed going too fast, but I'm happy to descend quickly because I'm getting more comfortable with that now. So as we approach Matamata, we're going to want to come down to 1,700. Is there anything else I should be aware of? We don't need flaps yet, and we'll do that on our bump-fist checks. 2,000 feet.
Keep a heading of 160 to track the straight road.
Heading of 16. Oh, it wants me to keep the 160. Track the straight road. That's fair.
We make a radio call before we reach the overhead to give advance notice to any other aircraft in the circuit.
Okay, so we're going to pull out.
Matamata traffic, Foxtrot Sierra Alpha, 1,700 feet from the north for overhead join at Matamata.
So this is actually teaching us about radio calls as well.
Keep 1,700 feet for now.
So what I've done is I put mixture back to full rich as well because we're below 2,000 feet. So really that's like our most efficient option. So we're coming up on Matamata. Now we have the lollipop, but even if I didn't have the lollipop, I'm starting to look for runway features and see, what classes is overhead right. So now I can power back a little bit to level out. And then I'm going to trim the nose down, start leveling out where I want to get this plane nice and level to the horizon at 1,700 feet. I can see another aeroplane down there, see the lights flashing. Don't know where that's going. Try and trim this thing out to 17. I think that's about right. Okay, so
when nearing the runway 28 threshold, start a right-hand turn and I'll call overhead. Matamata traffic, Foxtrot Sierra Alpha overhead for runway 28 Matamata.
right-hand turn. So we're turning into the dead side now. That's the side of the runway that doesn't have the pattern, because this is a standard left-hand pattern runway.
Now we're crossing the runway, we're entering the dead side. Start descending to circuit altitude 1,200 feet and turn right to cross over the upwind end of runway 28, near the white buildings.
Okay.
Matamata Foxtrot Sierra Alpha descending dead side 28, Matamata. Keep the turn going towards heading 010 and aim to cross the upwind end at circuit altitude 1,200 feet.
Copy. Coming down 1,200. That's quite a descent there. Picking up quite a bit of speed. It's not ideal. Right, there's 1,200. So I'm at 1,000 feet, but okay, something's broken.
Now we're crossing the upwind end. We should be 1,200 feet and about heading 010 as we enter the live side.
Yeah, we're crossing onto the live side now, but I mean, this is totally uncontrolled.
We want 1,200 feet until the base turn. Now make the right turn onto right downwind, heading 100, maintaining 1,200.
Okay, I don't like this. This is because we're kind of just cutting in. It's kind of the same that we did in the other tutorial, but okay, slowing to 80 knots. 80 knots is a lot less than that, so I'm going to pull a lot of power out. I'm going to turn. And I want to slow, so I'm going to pop the nose up a little bit, which will drop off a bunch of power. Coming into 80 now. Come on, baby.
Once inside the white airspeed band, take first stage of flap and hold 80 knots on base.
First stage of flap.
Matamata's runway 28 is grass and unmarked. It also has unusual dimensions, being about triple the width of a normal runway, at 137 metres wide. Make your own turn onto final, and judge your approach with this in mind.
Coming in now. Turning final. A little bit high. So I'm a little bit offline, so I'm going to straighten up. I'm going to come off the power because I want to be able to descend a bit more sprightly here. Fixed position in the windscreen. It's hard to see where you're actually supposed to land here because it all looks flat green. It's like, where's the actual runway?
Matamata Foxtrot Sierra Alpha, final 28 for full stop, Matamata. As this grass runway is unmarked, choose an aiming point roughly where you'd expect to find the runway numbers and keep that locked in your windscreen. The wideness of this runway will give the illusion of being low, so try to account for this. Power back and flare attitude, look to the far end.
Here we are, folks. And we are down. Apply the brakes.
Great, we've flown from airfield to airfield with some navigation in between and made an overhead join to join a right-hand circuit.
Well, folks, I did it. That was difficult. What? It's just because I get it now. I did it, so it's like tick. It's like a checkbox, on or off, rather than completely failed. So we've seen the VFR navigation. So we've seen the VFR navigation for the built-in tutorial, and we've also seen what part of the VFR tutorial for FSAcademy looks like. Bearing in mind, to be fair, that is the whole course is VFR, but some of it talks to you about handling, approach, circuits, and that's something we already did with the built-in tutorial, so I'm not going to cover those again. But we can see here how the local flight component of this compares to the local flight component of the built-in. I'll be honest, I really like it. I think it's informative. It tells you different things than the built-in one does, and I think they actually complement each other really nicely. Doing the built-in one and then doing this was actually really helpful because it kind of warmed me up to this. It's tricky switching between aircraft. I'm not going to lie, that was the hard part. Switching between the two was super challenging. So overall, I quite like this. Just as an FYI, this isn't sponsored. I bought this as a private person and I wanted to try it, and I'm really glad I have. A big thanks for watching. I really hope you've enjoyed the video. I've had a blast making it. If you liked the video, click the like button. If you want to see more content like this from me, hit the subscribe button. Thanks for joining me, and I'll see you in the next one.